I saw this video from, I know it's a lot of Grimsy. I guess we react to some of his stuff on the stream, so I ended up seeing a lot of his stuff. But this one is about Ryan Beard. Okay, Ryan changed their name.
All right, guys.
Okay, I can't look at the thumbnail. And you
hey,
know,
welcome
I'm
back.
friends with Ryan Beard. It's called He's So Insufferable.
All right.
I like Ryan. Ryan's a cool person. Ryan and I go way back to the old, I don't know if you guys knew this, TikTok days. We started out as friends. Then we had our turbulation period when I got a little edgy on TikTok because I was frustrated because I was getting canceled for like just harmless jokes. And, you know, they're a little edgy. And then I kind of spiraled, and we know the story. But we're friends. We hashed it out in private a while back, and we were friends. Ryan will come on the stream every once in a while, say, "What up, sucker?" And I'll say, "What's up, playa?" And then we chat. So I want to see why Grimsy finds Mr. Beard to be Ryan Beard. Excuse me. I kept forgetting that Ryan changed their name. To be so insufferable.
All right, guys, don't worry. I didn't forget about you, okay? I've had a long day. But upon request by a couple of fans...
It would have been a little bit of a funny dunk moment, though, if Grimsy played Hogwarts Legacy while he was doing this reaction. By the way, if you see, I got my gay fit on. I got the Together hat. And I got the love shirt because I'm going undercover incognito mode to play Hogwarts Legacy.
They've said, you know, Grimsy, we're done of you making original content where you just shit on the microphone. We've had enough of it, quite frankly. And instead, they want to have content where I just shit on autistic people on the internet. Okay, you know...
Too edgy, dude.
What? Fine, I'll do it just for you guys. Also, just by the way, yeah, I know my voice is dead, dude. I've been practicing a speech all day, okay? Alright, dude, about diversity and inclusion. Anyway, there's nobody really more insufferable, and I genuinely dislike...
Is this person in, like, college? Is Grimsy in, like, college or something? Is that what they're doing? Are they actually practicing an inclusion speech, or are they just being a little memer? Are they being a little memer?
Like on the internet more than Mr. Fuck. Mr. Bread, dude. This guy just sucks. He comes in to ruin everybody's fun. Anytime anybody makes an edgy joke, he makes about some big thing like, oh, actually, that's harmful. And is genuinely seen as like one of the most sensitive.
Does Ryan actually do that on TikTok and Twitter? I never really had that problem. I made edgy jokes to Ryan. We all have a laugh.
Pussies on the internet, dude. I swear to God, if you call this dude fat, he's gonna go in a 30-minute video explaining why fat phobia is real and why you're an ass.
It is real, I will tell you.
And I think the most insufferable part about him is
fat people deserve fat phobia. I'm just kidding.
Isn't that he expresses opinions like, oh, this is harmful or whatnot, but just the way he explains it, like the way all these politician people, like politics people explain it, is like,
well, actually, in my debate logic, that's actually gay and wrong.
And as an example, I'd like to show you guys one of his most
I'd like to see an example of this.
Recent tweets about the word retard.
Oh my goodness. We're really hitting the discourse pretty hard. Sorry. Yeah, you guys know my opinion on that word. I'm not a big fan of it. We just had like a whole rundown on this with the Keffels thing yesterday. That's probably why Ryan is talking about it. I don't like the R slur. Okay? I used to say the R slur. I'm not happy with myself, and I like to be like generally advocate against it. I know that there's a lot of young, edgy kids on the internet going and using the R slur. Some of them use other, words as well. And I know that they don't use it out of hate, but they use it out of like incredible ignorance. But it really is something that needs to stop. The reality is that people with intellectual and developmental disabilities that are negatively impacted by the word are typically people that are high support needed, that live in group homes and get other types of care. People on the internet, there are people with autism on the internet, ADHD, OCD, other things on the internet, and who don't struggle in any real degree and aren't targeted by the R slur. And they say, well, I have ADHD. So I'm like, oh, I could say it. Like Keffels, oh, I have autism. I don't even know if she has autism. Well, I could say it. But you clearly don't struggle with your autism in the way that somebody who would be actually genuinely offended by that word. I always reference a Jubilee video where there's a group there, they talk to people with Down syndrome. I really think you should watch it. You could literally tab to here. There's one that is... There is one in here that asks them if they like the R slur. The R word, it's right here. The R word hurts my feelings. They asked them all. They all unanimously don't like it. It's 1 minute and 30 seconds. You could take the time out of your day to listen to somebody who's truly impacted by this word. Right? The reality is this comes from like nobody really caring about people with intellectual and developmental disabilities to the same degree, and they don't have the same representation as other marginalized groups like trans people or black people or anybody else. Okay, but you have to take your time to go and talk to these people. I historically used to think that these people weren't valuable to society. I used to think that they were less than people, and I'm ashamed of that perspective. I said this yesterday, but I met my wife. She works very closely with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. She's a behavioral specialist for them, right? And I've talked to her. I've met them, and it's like really shown to me the very basic truth that they're just people as well that are going through a different struggle, just like we all go through different struggles. That's it. And they're good people. And talking to them, they don't like these words. I don't think it's a big deal to shift away from using this slur. And that's what it is. And it's unfortunate. You know, there's a lot of issues that are associated with this term, the R slur. You know, historically, it was a diagnosis for people with like different disabilities. And what they would do is they would diagnose them, shame them for having this diagnosis, and then they would put them into mental health facilities that systematically raped and abused them. And I know that sounds harsh, but that's what was happening. There are so many issues going on that like they had to shut down a ton of these these different facilities, mental health facilities, whatever you would call them. Well, one of the areas my wife works with is a bunch of people who used to be in an abusive setting, and now they kind of like taken out. And these are individuals that struggle with a lot of problems, and there's a lot of issues associated with it that I don't think people like truly understand. All right, there's so many like just sensory issues or different issues, the inability to communicate or to be frustrated trying to communicate with people. The thing that makes me the saddest about these individuals that live in the high support needed individuals is that some of them have parents that just throw them into the system because they don't really love them. Or some of them have put their kids into the system because they get older and it's hard for them to raise their kid at like 60. It's hard to raise a 40-year-old at 60 who may have only the mental capacity of somebody who's like, 20 or 15 or 20 years old. And so what happens is they put them in the facility for a long term. And like, so they're in there, like, let's say some of them are there for like 5 days a week and then they go home. Some of them are like, some of them just get sent to weekend retreats, right? There's so many different people. The problem is that they go to these facilities and they have these different people, direct support professionals, behavioral specialists, the house managers, et cetera, who are basically family to them because they don't understand the boundary, the difference between like a direct support professional that's there to be paid to help them versus like their own family, at least not in like a super critical way. And they're with these people that they develop feelings for, like familial feelings. And those professionals, the support staff, they're not allowed to. If somebody with a high support individual says "I love you," they can't reciprocate that, right? And it makes sense. I understand they don't want to violate a boundary. There's a huge outlier of potential grooming issues, but then there's also like some people. There's high turnover for some of the support staff, so they don't want them getting too attached. But when these people have a bad day, they can't hug. They can't hug. They want to hug. They can have a hug. You can't hug them. And just imagine that your everyday life was most of the people that you were centralized around, you weren't allowed to hug or love, or if you did, you wouldn't get any level of reciprocation. There's so many people who are deemed non-consenting and can't really have fulfilling relationships, and it makes sense because they don't have robust understandings of consent. Some people think that like if Peter buys you a cheeseburger, you have to fuck him, right? But it's just sad. And I think that at the very least, we could be a little bit sensitive and not use the word. Because the only reason that people want to use the word is to make you feel powerful. You search for the most intense word that you could possibly use to try to put somebody down, and that's the one that you come upon. And so, like, that's my thing, man. It just sucks. Just try to imagine that you're somebody that's a high support needed individual, and just think about that. It's nice that we're having a conversation about the discourse, but it sucks, man. It's sad. I really do feel bad. Like it's sad. I feel bad for a lot of these people, and there's no outlet online for a lot of these people to come on and be like, hey, I don't like this, and by using the R slur, you're just removing anybody's safe space to come out online. Like, honestly, look at the way we treat almost every single person with a disability on any social media platform. We're not even talking about our Daniel Larsons, because there's a hot take about people with disabilities. They're not all nice people. They are just as many assholes with disabilities as assholes without them. Daniel Larson is a deeply flawed individual who's a threat to himself and others, and he has these mental issues, and he needs to be taken off the internet and put into like a housing facility where he doesn't have access to like TikTok. That's what needs to happen, because like I said, he's a danger to himself and other people, right? But the trolls exacerbate that issue, and they end up getting people hurt. I'll use Christian is a better argument. Christian is somebody who's not a good person. They assaulted their mother. But if you don't think that a like routine for 10 years of like or more of constant trolling, where every single one of the relationships that Christian has ever made, whether it's a friend or what they think is a friend or they think is a intimate relationship, it has been some kind of a troll. Well, somebody will show up in a pickle costume. I know it sounds so funny, but when you retract completely isolating Christian and then other people coming in and saying like, oh, the relationship that you have with your mom is an actual boundary crosser, reaffirming that. Remember, was Isabella Janke like, oh no, this is good. Oh, it sounds like your mom wants to have sex with you. Like, should I? That hurt somebody else. An elderly woman with dementia was raped, and a big part of it is the trolling. And this is what happens on the internet. And it comes down to just this fundamental lack of consideration for people with disabilities. You could just have left these people alone. There are people like a Bandit. Now, you probably don't know who these are. People with Down syndrome that just constantly bullied all over the internet. Like we have to stop having these relationships with people online that have disabilities. Like, you view their content, but the relentless bullying, the usage of the R slur, it goes so deep, and people are getting hurt. We have to have a better attitude about people with like different disabilities, especially ones that are high support needed. We have to just stop bullying people, and that's part of the anonymity of online like behavior. You know, you don't have to attach yourself to it. So you could just be like, oh, like, I don't know. Like, you don't, you're faceless or you're nameless or you're just a PFP of a dog saying this shit, dancing Barbie dogs. Anyway, is he going to read it?
I really wish people would stop doing mental gymnastics to justify using the R slur.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Usually the justification people use is that a lot of other words people use are rooted in ableism, so therefore it should be okay to use all ableist language. I disagree with this logic.
That's a fair thing that he's saying. Oh, the fake Grimsy's in the chat.
At the end of the day, which slurs are considered acceptable is determined by the communities affected by them.
It's kind of true, sure.
For example, it's generally seen as okay to use the word queer, but not the word faggot, because this is what the LGBT community has decided. Yo.
Yeah.
Bro, you forgot the Q, bro. What about being an ally, you fucking dick? If nearly every single person...
Well, Ryan is a non-binary individual. Okay. And also gay, because Ryan thinks I'm attractive. I don't know. Just kidding. So that would be his logic of using the F slur because I'm not gay. So I don't feel comfortable using slurs in context. So I'll just say the F slur. That's probably why Ryan decided to use it.
Person in the disabled community... Disabled. If nearly...
Why is that funny, man? Come on.
Every single person in the disabled community has expressed that they don't like people using the R slur. Is it really that difficult to just stop using it out of respect? Well,
I think that's a fair thing to say, man. I think respect is very important and very powerful.
Yes, it is true that words like dumb, stupid, lame, moron, etc. have roots in ableism. The majority of the disabled community is fine with people using these words, which is why I think using them is fine.
There is a difference between these words. Like, there is no like outreach of people with like high support needed individuals saying, please don't use the word stupid or whatever. Like, the R slur is a very particular, very intense word. I don't think it's so bad to not use it, man.
There is a conversation to be had about how many of the insults we commonly use are rooted in ableism, and maybe over time we'll phase out more of these words, but for the time being, not using the R slur is just a matter of respect.
Man, come on, Grimsy. This sucks, because I know people in my chat always meme on the Grimsy when we watch them, and they're like, oh, leafy clone, but I happen to like Grimsy. We've chatted here and there before about different things we've disagreed with, and when he makes his videos, he does tend to be a little bit extra, we'll say. All right, a little provocative, a little intense. But in person, he's generally respectful to me, and that's something that I can appreciate. And for what it's worth, I will say that this is a very disappointing take. I know that you're part of the edgy community that justify these words and all this, but you know, I think it's something to consider about the way that maybe you're perceived outside of like your own community, and think about how it sounds so cringe, but how maybe you make other people feel. I know that sounds kind of gay, kind of cringe, kind of lame, kind of stupid, but you know, there's a lot of young people on the internet with a lot of potential to become like, you know, more popular and to really generate notoriety. And I don't think is that the right word? Fame in some capacity. And I think that it's not unreasonable to take a deep breath and go, one day, and have the confidence in yourself to go, you know what, one day I think I'm going to transcend the small echo chamber type community that I'm in, and I would like people outside of this community to listen to and respect what I have to say. And so maybe I should take steps to be a little bit more respectful and palatable to those other communities. You know? Like, that's all I'm saying. I think that would be good. You know, if you want to use the R slur in private, whatever, be my guest. But I think in public, at the very least, it's maybe take a deep breath and just consider how your actions might negatively impact some people. Even if that negative impact is them just going, I don't want to associate with you. You know? What's up, Magic Gotti? Just got done with my interview for my first job. Awesome, man. How'd it go?
The arguments people use for being able to say the R slur just feel like slippery slope fallacies to me. If we stop using this word, we'll have to stop using all its insults. I seriously doubt the disabled community is going to expect people to stop using all insults.
Now, if you can't tell why I hate this guy, it's not because he thinks saying retard is bad. It's because he's such a little cunt about it, dude. Who is actually going out there and saying, actually, dude?
I want to say retard because a layman moron can be said. Nobody's saying that.
Listen, Grimsy, my brother in Christ, Keffels literally just said that. When I don't know if you made your video before or after Keffels, and I mean, like, you know, I wouldn't expect you to know everything that's going on all the time, everywhere.
This guy's response
back and forth, up, down, left, right, and sideways. But the video that she released yesterday, which was before yours, this is a day ago here, yours 17 hours, she literally said that. She's like, oh, the dumb and stupid and blah, blah. That is an argument that I've heard people use. I've had a chat with Stardust, a smaller streamer, and I like Stardust. Okay. She used that same logic when I talked to her about it. And, you know, I wouldn't expect you to be able to see all these. Like, these aren't the most popular, incredible things going on. This fucking Keffels video has 15,000 views. Like, I understand. My point is, it's like, yeah, these arguments are being used.
Nobody's fucking saying that, dude. Nobody moral grandstands about slurs.
It does happen, my friend.
Nobody, fucking nobody, except you. And with
It's
pretty
not
much
true.
every
I'm
autistic
so
person that I've interacted with, and yes, it's a lot, that have been high functioning or, you know, aware enough to be able to, like, know retard. As long as you're not calling them a retard, they don't give a shit. Like,
Right, but like I really do appreciate this from Grimsy. He said high functioning. Now that's a dated term. You typically, instead of high functioning, you would say like low support or no support needed. Okay, I'm not like saying that he's a bad person for saying it like that. I'm just trying to get us into the usage of the correct terminology that's more respectful. So instead of like low functioning, high support needed. Instead of high functioning, low or no support needed individuals with like autism he's talking about. You know? That's what I'm saying. So I'm just trying to get the correct vernacular. Okay? Those aren't the individuals who are impacted. Like, I would be considered a no or a very low or no support person with like ADHD. Right? I don't know how bad ADHD can. And I had a lot of problems when I grew up. I had a lot of behavior problems. I talk about this. I have OCD. There's times where I'm going back and forth between both the front and back door. And sometimes it's a half an hour because I'm just, when I get stressed, I kind of like, I tick more and I, you know, I have more issues. Making sure it's locked in sets of 5, 1, 2, 3, you know, top lock, bottom lock, top lock, you know, and then to the back door and then doing that and then to the front door. But I'm a no support needed person. I can manage my issues myself. I'm not affected by the R slur. Right? But there are people who are. You know, there's people who have there's people who have such significant issues. You know, there's some people that are like nonverbal autistic that they'll hear a loud sound, and it's a specific maybe frequency or a specific sound that just triggers them. And maybe they're wearing earphones and they take them off just to smack themselves in the ears because they have a problem communicating and they want the behavior to stop. And they just don't know how to communicate, so they just smack themselves violently, and it's horrible. You know, like, it's horrible. Imagine being in the room with like a grown man that's struggling with their issue, and they're nonverbal, and they're just trying to sit there and be quiet and like look at their iPad, and they have their headphones on, they're being quiet and reserved, and they're just chilling. And then they start hearing a very loud noise. Maybe it's a fire alarm. Maybe it's like maybe the oven set off the whatever. And they don't know how to communicate that they don't like the sounds. They take their headphones and start with all their might, slamming their hands into the side of their head. Like, that's, you know, those are the individuals like that we're talking about, man. You know, and you know, it's not just people that are that high support needed that are offended by the word. People that are less high support needed, medium support, I guess, are also offended by it. It's just that we don't see them. I know that nobody will do it. But go visit a group home, man. Knock on the door or call like a local group and say, can I visit the facility and just get to know some people or something? Or I don't know. You know? That's who I'm thinking of when we're talking about this. So
it's really not that hard to realize that the word in and of itself is pretty harmless. Like, at the end of the day, if you're not using it to degrade autistic people, who the fuck cares? But
I would just say, would you use that same logic about like the hard R? Maybe you would. You're in like the edgy community. That's not an insult to you. I'm just, but I wouldn't. You know, I just think it's time to not use the word.
You spend 99 to 100% of your time online jerking off on Discord and typing on Twitter. You have no idea what the real world is like, okay? Your version of the disabled community is a bunch of edgy fucking teenagers self-identifying with autism and then telling you how bad it is to say the fucking word retard. And well,
my problem is that, like, listen, I know Ryan's is a really good person. Maybe, listen, I don't think Ryan's terminally online, but let's just pretend Ryan's terminally online. To be fair, to be honest with you, Grimsy, you are, to me, I'm a 32-year-old grown man that is married. You are very terminally online to me, okay? I have gone into the real world, and I've had these conversations, and I've had these experiences. I'm telling you that these people exist that are offended by this word. And to me, there is a lack. If you think there's a lack of life experience with Ryan, I really think that there's a lack of life experience with you. And as a young man, especially, I remember being a young man, I was not particularly empathetic. And it takes a long time to grow up and be like, fuck, you know? I don't think it was till I got into like my mid-20s when I started to grow up, you know, and be like, wow, like other people matter. It sounds so silly, but maybe I just grew up slowly. I don't know. I think a lot of stuff like this just comes down to like a lack of consideration for people around you. You know? Yeah, I'm 32. I don't think that Grimsy's 30. Grimsy's like probably 20 or 18 years old or something right now. Ryan's like 22. I don't even know. But
I do believe that there are several people within this community that are disabled or whatever that do, you know, find offense to the word retard. It's like, okay, and like at the end of the day, if the N-word hard R, all black people or most black people said it was cool to say, would you say it then? Would it be cool for people to say it then? No, you're a fucking idiot.
Wait, what? Doesn't that debunk your own point?
If the N-word hard R, all black people or most black people said it was cool to say, would you say it then? Would it be cool for people to say it then?
No, maybe. I don't think so.
No, you're a fucking idiot. My stance on this is say,
wouldn't that mean that? Isn't that? I'm confused. It sounds like what you're saying is you're disagreeing with yourself by saying if most people with disability said it was okay to use the word, you still shouldn't use the word.
Find offense to the word. Several people within this community that are disabled or whatever that do, you know, find offense to the word retard. It's like, okay, and like at the end of the day, if the N-word hard R, all black people or most black people said it was cool to say, would you say it then? Would it be cool for people to say it then? No, you're a fucking idiot.
But doesn't that disagree with yourself? That argument disagrees with your argument.
Stance on this is say whatever slurs you want, and I'm not going to make some big sort of deal about it like, actually.
He's debating himself.
Actually, the reason I use
He's using a reverse situation proof point. I don't think that he is. I don't know. I'm confused.
slurs is because I'm of a higher intellect.
You're all of you are retarded. Anyways, this is what you guys asked for, so go fuck yourself, dude. I torment myself every day with this cock and ball torture, and you guys revel in it. Go fuck yourself. Goodbye.
Okay. Well, interesting. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I said, I think I said what I had to say. Hopefully, we can engage more in this discourse in a more respectful way. And stop, please. Stop calling me the Arsler. And we get to a point where we stop having this discussion in this way and get a little bit more empathetic to people, you know? So what's
Okay,
up?
so 2 things. One was like, you were talking about people that are like so disabled they can't talk and stuff. And
I guess so.
Like, I don't know. I just saw like a short clip, so I don't know if you were like saying like maybe I didn't know that or not. But like actually my next door neighbor that I grew up with, she had that. Like she had to use the tablet and stuff to talk.
Oh, like a nonverbal autistic person. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like yeah, I know those people exist and stuff, and like I don't know. Like the way I think about it is I don't know, this might seem, I mean, I don't care, like looking bad or whatever, but like, do they even understand enough to even know what that means? You know what I mean? I mean, I think it depends on the person, but
yeah, listen. I would say it's a little it's a little ignorant. Yeah, listen, the people that like some of them, sure, some of them can't, but a lot of people with disabilities like that are higher or more support needed do understand what the word means. They understand that it's to target and harass them. Oh my god, it's just so loud. Target and harass them. And yeah, they do understand. Not all of them, but a good amount of people understand that it's a word that's used to like hurt them.
yeah, no, I mean, I wasn't advocating calling autistic people retarded.
No,
Like,
no, I know.
okay.
to me, I would say that the R slur is very comparable to like any other slur, like the N word or the F slur or anything like that. The only real difference is that people that are truly affected by the word, like people usually like higher or support needed, actually upset by the usage of that word, don't really get representation. And that's why I think most people just don't care as much. And I was there too. Like I used to like not care about people with disabilities in the way where like I would look at Down syndrome and I was like, oh, they're not a real person, which is really shitty. And then obviously I got education. My behavioral specialist, I talked to people, talked to her. I've talked to actual people in the support system. I reference people to like a Jubilee video about Down syndrome. It's like a minute and a half of it is like how they feel about the R slur. I think it's a really good watch. But interacting with a lot of these people, I realize that it's a very hurtful word, and it's. I think it's best to cycle it out of our vocabulary.
Okay. So there's a couple of comments in the chat really quick. Like,
Okay.
Seems like he didn't actually talk to his neighbor if he didn't know. Dude, she literally couldn't even speak. Like, what do you mean? Like, she could say like milk or bread or go out. Like, I don't think you understand what it's like, bro.
I know that's somebody that's like a nonverbal person that uses.
Yeah, I mean, like,
yeah, I understand what you mean.
And I feel like if I ever asked her, like, I mean, I wouldn't, right? Because I don't know if, like, I don't know.
It's probably best to just not use the word.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing is, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like it doesn't even. I mean, of course, there are people that use it to degrade autistic people. I agree. Do you think like the word in of itself, because it can also be used in that context, is also bad using it in any context? Is that what you're?
Yeah, like it's the same thing with like any other slur. It's bad in any real context, you know. Like I remember when I was younger and I played video games like Dota 2, I would call other white people the N word. With a hard R. I'm not proud of it, but that's what I've done before. Like I wouldn't defend that behavior because it doesn't matter if it's not like targeting the person. It's about like not using the language and creating really like a comfortable space and just being generally respectful to people.
Okay, yeah, I understand that.
You know.
I mean, it's just like, I mean, being young, like growing up on the internet and stuff, like, you know, people say shit all the time.
I get
and
it.
like,
yeah, trust me.
I'd be lying if I said my friends didn't use the N word in like a joking context, but I don't think like anybody that I know would actually call an N word person. Or
no,
Jesus
listen,
Christ, I just fucked that up.
I know. I know what
a
you're
black
saying.
person, the hard R.
I know what you're saying. Listen, I used to do that too when I was like young, probably your age. Like, what are you, 18, 20?
I'm 19.
19. When I was your age, what's funny is I never used any slurs until I started playing video games online, okay? So I understand that it is an interesting space full of a lot of based And I understand that you like people don't use it to be hateful. Like I don't think that people use it to be hateful. It's one of those things where it's funny to a lot of people because it's such a shocking word, and it invokes a lot of energy. Even when you say it to your friends, it's like whatever. You know, generally you shouldn't say the words, but if it's with your friends and it's not in a public space, I personally don't care. I think it's more about when like you're on the internet. There's 1,000 different communities of people that can be interacting with your stuff, and I don't think it's bad to be a little more empathetic towards different groups, in a public setting. I don't think that you'd go around. I don't know if you, when you go to like the supermarket, I don't know if you go around calling people the arsler or anything like that.
No.
Yeah, so I try to engage with the internet like I'm engaging in the real world. It can be weird because obviously it's not the real world, but that's how I would try to operate, not running around stuff publicly. So
no, I mean, like, I understand. Like, I guess I see it on a different level. Like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's just a word, stuff, say whatever. Like, I don't know. I've been saying that shit my entire life, dude. Like, and whether that's good or bad, it's like, I don't fucking know. But, like, I mean, in school, like, I mean, I don't know if, I mean, you're older, but it's probably the same thing. Like, if there's autistic people would, like, use that kid as, like, the butt of the jokes and stuff and, like, would fuck with him and do all that shit. Like, I never did that, and I always felt bad for that guy. But I never saw, like, the arsler being even comparable to that. So I don't see like a problem.
I know
with
what you're like. It's not like bullying people with disabilities is not the same. Like using the R slur on your friend is not the same as actually bullying somebody with disabilities. I understand what you're saying. Like it's not nearly as bad. But I will say that especially on the internet, there is a good number of people who justify using the R slur, and there are also a ton of people with disabilities that impact their life more. They're like higher support needed people, like on the internet. Like I don't know, like Chris Chan is probably a good example of not a good person, but the bullying and the atmosphere around it, which I think is somewhat associated with like the comfortable usage of the R slur and the ignorance on mental health issues. I think the entire way that people have engaged with Chris Chan, again, not the greatest person because they did assault their own mother. But if you look at all the information, every single relationship that they've tried to develop, whether it's they perceive it as a friendship or a intimate relationship, has been a troll that just fucks with them. It pushes this individual into a place where they can only feel like they trust their mother, on top of like that one troll that was like, oh, it sounds like you're like affirming that you should sleep with your mom. I don't know if you like the Isabella Jenkins, that's the girl.
Yeah, no.
That's like the way that we treat people. If you go on TikTok, I don't think I've seen a single person with Down syndrome that's not relentlessly bullied to fucking death. Daniel Larson.
Yeah, no, I see that too.
Yeah, and like Daniel Larson, Christian, not great people, but people who are, I would say, a danger to themselves and others need to be taken off the internet and put into like some kind of a group home setting so that they can be monitored better. And then there's other people who get that. I feel like it all contributes to just an overall ignorance on people with disabilities. And there's not a lot of people with disabilities advocating in the online space. Part of it, probably because of it's not a super comfortable space to be able to do it. Maybe part of it because they have no interest or access to a computer. I don't really know. But part of it is definitely because they get fucking relentlessly bullied. So I'm just trying to bring a little awareness,
Yeah, no, I understand that. I guess like to me it just doesn't. I don't see. I mean, I guess I can't understand like if you were calling an autistic person the arsler, like that can be hateful and can contribute to that problem that you're addressing. I agree. It's a problem. And like, I mean, I would never fucking go online and be like, oh, this kid's fucking autistic, let's laugh at him like that. I don't do that. Like, I don't think that's cool. And I mean, I don't like see it as that big of a problem. Maybe that's just like ignorance or something.
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Like I've talked to, like autistic people before and stuff, and like they never had a problem with it. Like I've plenty of people that watch my videos, and they're like, "Well, I don't care," but I understand like people can care, right? Obviously, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are probably some black people who don't care about these, but then there's also something to keep in mind is that like not everybody with every issue is the same. Like I have ADHD, and I wouldn't sit here and say that I'm somebody that struggles with my mental health issue near as much as somebody that like needs support. And there's a lot of people, especially nowadays, I feel like, different mental health issues are becoming more prevalent. Like you're seeing more people with autism and other issues as well. And like they simply put, most of them don't have the same struggle with struggle associated with their autism as other, or I would say most people do, or the people who would be offended by the word,
Yeah. Okay. I guess I can understand that.
Yeah, like I said, I would just be more cautious about using it in a public setting. You know, whatever you do in the private time, that's on you. It's just about just trying to be a little more, a little more empathetic to the people going through a particular struggle. That's it.
Yeah, I understand that. I just like, I know this is kind of circling, but I just like, for me, like, I hear you. I get what you're saying. I understand these are problems, right? Like, I totally agree that shit is problems, but like, I don't see how, like, that particular word goes into it. And it's not like I'm like dying at the edge of the hill. Oh my God, I gotta say it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just something I say a lot. And I feel like whenever people grandstand about it, I feel like Mr. Beard or whatever the fuck he's called.
Ryan Beard.
Yeah. I feel like that's all. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like poisoned in the brain, but I feel like every time people do that shit, it's just a fucking grift.
Well, first of all, I can understand why you perceive a grift on the, because there are plenty of people who don't seem to actually give a shit about issues, and then they talk about issues. I would say Ryan's not one of them. I'm friends with Ryan. Ryan's a good person, genuine person. I know that Ryan probably doesn't. You guys probably aren't compatible. Does that
Yeah.
You know, for me, I'm like almost a weird bridge where when I was younger, I was very similar to you, and now I'm getting older and I'm getting more empathetic, and now like I'm kind of like I'm probably more similar to you than Ryan, but now I'm like more empathetic to like that perspective. Ryan's a sensitive person, but not in a bad way. Sensitivity's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, you know, I get it's just a very different communication. It's a different. So I can see why you feel that way. I would say, though, you know, I assure you that Ryan is a very genuine person, though.
Okay.
So, you know, and I thought that their take was decent. You know, at the end of the day, any type of like advocation, people are going to kind of like initially be like, "Oh, that's stupid." I think we've all been there for everything. So it's, you know, you're not a bad person or anything. I don't think you're a bad person or anything at all. You know, but you know.
Yeah. No, I understand. Okay. Yeah, I get it. I mean, that makes more sense than like. I don't know. And okay, there was one other thing.
Okay.
Whenever I said like, if all black people said it was okay to say the hard R, would you say like, would it be okay to say it?
Mm-hmm.
That was. Let me find the tweet again. There's one specific tweet. I know I didn't mention it very well in the video.
Yeah, I was a little confused in that because it sounded like you were almost dunking on your own perspective there.
Yeah. Let me pull it up real quick. Okay, wait. There was a tweet. It said, okay, it was talking about like dumb, stupid, lame, moron, have roots in ableism, but the majority of the disabled community is fine with people using these words, so I'm fine with it. So what I was saying is like, if fucking most black people said, "Oh, you can say the hard R," would this guy say the hard R?
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like. No, like he fucking wouldn't. You know what I mean? So like that was what felt especially grifty to me because it's almost like, oh, I'm an ally. Oh, everything they say is what I'm going to do. And like, I don't know. Like, I don't fucking know.
I know. I understand the point. I understand the point that you're making. I do understand because when you first hear the fundamental concept of because a community says a thing, you have to listen to that. I do understand. Like, if a lot of like a particular community, not to bring black people to everything, but if they thought all white people were racist, I would obviously reject that notion. And just because they all thought a thing doesn't mean that I'm going to listen to it. So I feel like maybe that's what you're having an issue with. What Ryan was just talking about is, hey, there's a community of people who are saying that this word is very hurtful to them, and we should listen to that. But they're not. And then he was speaking to the slippery slope thing. Like, I think that you said you haven't seen it before, where there's some people that are like, oh, well, what about the word stupid or dumb or idiot?
Oh, I think those people are fucking brain dead. I hate those people,
well, people
too.
Just so you know, people do bring that. Like, Keffels literally just brought that up. She was like, oh, well, they don't care if we use these words. So, like, oh, what are we supposed to stop saying stupid now? And Keffels,
well, yeah, no, if you're... Yeah. I feel like if you're trying to justify using a slur through some big thing, like, well, actually, like, all of a sudden, like you're coping. You're fucking coping.
Yeah. Like, in the video, it seemed like you hadn't seen people make the argument, but like I've seen Keffels make it, and I saw Destiny make it too when I watched his conversation with Lex Freeman, which is a very good conversation. I like Destiny. I the so I've seen people make the argument of like, oh, so if you can't see the R, so like, what are we supposed to do? Not use the word dumb, not use the word stupid. But they're just profoundly different things, and there's a pretty big, solid consensus of people with like developmental intellectual disabilities that are support needed that are like, yeah, we don't like the way that this word feels. especially when you're in like schools and stuff. I feel like a lot of, especially young men, are throwing off these ableist slurs in schools. You know, you never know how that can make somebody feel just overhearing that word and them getting like deeply self-conscious about that when they're sitting off to the side, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Yeah, I can understand that, but like, yeah. Okay. I understand that.
yeah. Listen, it takes a while to let everything sink in, so don't even, you know, you don't have to switch your whole perspective tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I just never like, I don't know, the only way I've ever seen that presented is like, oh, it's bad, don't say it, because, I don't know, like, 5 people had their feelings hurt or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I get
I
what
know
you're
it sounds
saying.
like I'm not being empathetic or anything, but like, I do try to have empathy, and I would consider myself like an empathetic person. Maybe
I think it's just. Can you still hear me? Did you?
yeah, it just cut out.
Oh yeah. I think it's just because it's a new group of people that you haven't really engaged with. That's pretty much all it is. Like you know, like I said before, I used to not. I hate to say it, but I used to not respect people with like Down syndrome because I just didn't understand. And then when I met my wife and I started meeting people with Down syndrome, I was like, wow, like what a huge mistake. Sometimes you just have to meet people. And, you know, everybody's flawed in different ways. And you meet people, you start talking to them, you're like, wow, I was really wrong about this particular thing.
Yeah, I get it.
You know,
I get it. Yeah, I mean, other than that, dude, what the fuck? How the fuck are you gonna make this game work, dude?
I don't know. I'm so irritated.
I want Papa Gut to pee on my face, but just as a friend. There's nothing weird about that. I want him to pee on my face.